Good afternoon and welcome to the Pennsylvania Press Club. I'm Francine Schertzer, Senior Vice President of Politics and Policy at PCN, President of the Pennsylvania Press Club, and your host for today's luncheon. Joining me at the head table is Pete Shelley of ClearPoint Communications. Thank you for your support and thank you for being here. The Pennsylvania Press Club Luncheon Series could not be possible without the support of the generous organizations listed on our sponsor banner. Today's luncheon is being taped and will be carried throughout Pennsylvania to the television and streaming audience of PCN. Our speaker today is Senator Gene Yaw. Senator Yaw serves on a number of boards and commissions, including chair of the Center for Rural Pennsylvania, a member of the Chesapeake Bay Commission, a member of the Environmental Quality Board, a member of the Pennsylvania Aggregate Advisory Board, and a member of the Pennsylvania Energy Development Authority. Senator Yaw is a member of the Lycoming County Law Association and Pennsylvania Bar Association, Pennsylvania Association for Justice, and a former member of the Board of Directors of Susquehanna Legal Services. He serves of counsel with the McCormick Law Firm in Williamsport, a prominent firm which has been in continuous existence for 150 years. A U.S. Army veteran, Yaw enlisted and went on to graduate from the United States Artillery and Missile Officer Candidate School in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. He served an overseas tour of duty as an artillery officer and was honorably discharged as first lieutenant. He graduated from Montoursville High School, attended Bucknell University, and earned degrees from Lycoming College and the American University School of Law in Washington, D.C. Senator Yaw has coached Little League Baseball and coached and refereed for the American Youth Soccer Organization. He's a member of the National Rifle Association, Ducks Unlimited, the Nittany Lion Club, the Williamsport Lycoming Chamber of Commerce, and the Central PA Chamber of Commerce. He received the 2010 Distinguished Citizen of the Year Award from the Susquehanna Council, Boy Scouts of America, the 2011 Lycoming College Alumni of the Year Award, the 2011 CAPPA Community Partner Award, the Central Pennsylvania State of Israel Bonds 2012 Israel Unity Award, the 2013 Pennsylvania Winery Association Industry Supporter Award, the 2014 Pennsylvania College of Technology Centennial Leadership Award, the 2015 Pennsylvania Office of Rural Health Legislator of the Year Award, the 2019 Pennsylvania Water Environmental Association Public Official of the Year Award, and the 2021 Pennsylvania Association of Conservation Districts Legislator Leadership Award. Most recently, Senator Yaw received the 2023 WVIA Good Neighbor Award, the 2023 Marcellus Shale Coalition Shale Gas Advocate Award, and was selected as the 2023 Clean Water Champion by Choose Clean Water Coalition. Yaw has also been recognized by the National Federation of Independent Business as a guardian of small business for several legislative sessions, and by Americans for Prosperity, Pennsylvania, for his consistent conservative legislative voting record. In May 2023, Senator Yaw was named City and State Pennsylvania 2023 Energy and Environment Power 100 list. A loyal Sauk Township resident, Yaw is married to Ann Pepperman, Esquire. Together they have 2 children, Scott and Mackenzie, and 4 grandchildren. Senator Yaw, thank you for joining us today.
Good afternoon. It's great to be here. I didn't know I had done all those things, and Really? Somebody must have made them up because I don't remember a lot of the things happening. But anyway, we just kind of, people ask me all the time, why did you do certain things? And I don't mean this to be facetious, but it seemed like the thing to do at the time. People ask me why I volunteered for the Army. Well, it seemed like the thing to do at the time. And why am I in the Senate? Seemed like the thing to do at the time. But in any event, that's kind of been my history. I'd like to try and give you a little bit of an idea of what I do and some of the issues I'm involved in. My goal today is to just make you think just a little bit. And I kind of do this, I'm a lawyer, so we have to do CLEs. And sometimes some of the courses are really pretty boring, stupid, but my motto has been, If I can take one thing out of one of those sessions, just one thing, then I consider it to be a success. So all I'm suggesting or hoping that I can accomplish with you today, you take one thing out of here. And it can be good, bad, or indifferent, but just one thing that you remember. Some of the organizations I've been involved in were already mentioned. I chair the Environmental Resources and Energy Committee in the Senate and have now for, I don't know, a number of years. And that's been a real pleasure to be involved in. I'm also the chair of the Pennsylvania delegation to the Chesapeake Bay Commission. And the way the Chesapeake Bay Commission, if you don't know anything about it, it's basically 3 states. It's Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Virginia. Each state has 7 members, and I happen to be the chair of the Pennsylvania delegation. And the chairmanship rotates by state every year. And if all goes well, next year I will be the chair of the Pennsylvania or of the Chesapeake Bay Commission. So I get to deal with legislators from Maryland and Virginia on a regular basis. Actually, the end of this week is the quarterly meeting. Unfortunately, our quarterly meeting this time is in Washington, D.C., which is not one of my favorite places to go to, but we'll go there and make the best of it. I also, one of the other things that was not mentioned is I am chairman of the board of directors of the Pennsylvania College of Technology, which to me is a really, that's really a star in everything that I've done. We have a student population of about 4,700 now, and we have my commercial, this will be my commercial for Penn College, we have a 98% placement rate. We have about a third of our programs are maxed out. We have wait lists to get into a lot of the programs in the school. Some of the things that I'm going to mention a couple of things that I'm involved in. Some may seem totally unrelated, but maybe I can tie them together a little bit. One other thing I'll mention, and I think it was mentioned, the Ag and Rural Affairs Committee. Ag and Rural Affairs is obviously it's a huge interest to me in my district. I represent the 23rd Senatorial District, which, if you don't know, is all of Union County, all of Lycoming County, all of Sullivan County, all of Bradford County, and all of Tioga County. That district is about 3.5 times the size of the state of Rhode Island. So I do a lot of driving, obviously. I want to start off by talking about skill games. I know you've heard a lot about skill games. I sponsored a bill a couple of years running, a couple of sessions, and we just introduced a new bill. The number this year is 626. And I'd like to just talk a little bit about skill games. And when I talk about skill games, I'm being very specific. People can be very lazy and just say, oh, all these games that you see in bars and everywhere else and these pop-up casinos are skill games. That's not true. Skill games that I refer to are the ones that have been through court decisions. And right now, the only court decision cases involve a company called Pacematic. For whatever reason, and I don't know why, the Commonwealth started targeting Pacematic 11 years ago. The first court case was in 2014. Pacematic has won every court case since then. Their games are not under the Gaming Control Act. Their games were specifically developed as supplemental income for a going business. That's what's important. It's supplemental income for a going business. The courts have said that the predominant factor of the Pacematic games is skill. Big difference between slot machines and skill games. Slot machines have a program, an electronic program. You push a button, pull a lever, whatever happens when the program gets to a certain point, if you're lucky enough to be there, it's fine, you win. But you cannot change it. Skill games, and there's testimony actually from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in the court cases that say skill games, the player can affect outcome, has the opportunity to affect the outcome of the game every play. I've talked to staff members at the Capitol here on the Hill and said, I figured it out. I can win that game every time. I can't. The majority of us can't. Women are better than men. But that's what's out there. And that's a big difference between skill games and the traditional slot machines. The bill that we have crafted, we've tried to, first of all, that industry is the first industry that I've had come to me or come to the legislature and say, we want to be taxed and regulated. I mean, that's amazing. And the reason is, they said, we want to get the bad actors out of this so-called industry. I know that there have been a lot of these pop-up casinos or storefronts have appeared throughout, all over. There's some in my district. That is not the target. That is not the place where skill games are intended to be used. And the company admits that right at the outset. Their games are supplemental income, which means if they're attached to a going business, that means then that they can only be played when the business is open. Now, everybody in here has a cell phone, I'm assuming. You can play every casino game, and I have nothing against that. That's fine. You can take out your cell phone. You know, you can take out your cell phone and play casino games sitting in church. You can buy lottery tickets. You can do scratch off. You can do all those things. Where can you play a skill game? You have to be on the property where the game is located. And that's what the attraction is. Whether it's a tavern, whether it's the VFW, whether it's the American Legion, you have to be in the property. You can't play it on your cell phone, and you can't play it, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It's a restricted use. As I said, the intent is supplemental income to a going business. We talked about tax rate in our bill. We tax it, our tax rate is 16%. That's the same as table games. And it also recognizes there is a huge difference between the skill games and the traditional slot machines that are pre-programmed. As I said, the going businesses and why they are so popular is that you have to be on the property, and there is quite honestly, there is an element of camaraderie when you're sitting at a local tavern and you're having a beer after work with a friend or something, and you want to go to the end of the bar and put $5 or whatever it is in a skill game. There is that difference that's available. As I said, we tried to cover every aspect that somebody would think about as to a skill game, including law enforcement, and we allocated money or part of the money in it specifically towards enforcement. Now, I will say at the end, and this ties into some of the other things I mentioned at the beginning, where's the money go? Everybody wants it to go into the black hole. Now, the estimates are that this bill could earn about $300 million a year. Where would it go? into the black hole, which nobody knows then where it goes. So I thought, okay, I'm a member of the Chesapeake Bay Commission. The EPA, a couple of years ago, Maryland sued the EPA because EPA was not being tough enough on Pennsylvania in cleaning up our water. Pennsylvania produces about 50% of the fresh water that goes into the Chesapeake Bay. We have been targeted by EPA since 2010. So, okay, my proposal under my bill is the money goes into a Clean Streams Fund, which we started, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. And of that Clean Streams Fund, a large part of it goes into a program called ACAP, Agriculture Conservation Assistance Program, which benefits farmers in Pennsylvania. So here's a bill which I said, okay, it benefits small businesses, it benefits veterans organizations, it answers part of our responsibility with meeting our TMDL requirements with EPA, and it benefits farmers in Pennsylvania. Now, I'm not saying it's a perfect bill, but that touches an awful lot of things that are of importance, I think, to Pennsylvanians. That's my bill, and I'm happy later to answer any questions about it. Okay, one of the other big issues that I work on a regular basis, every day, is the electric grid. And how many of you know, well, I won't, I'll just tell you, PJM is the grid operator, the RTO, the regional transmission operator of the electric grid. Our grid is very fragile. The PJM grid is run out of Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, and originally it was Pennsylvania, Jersey, Maryland. It is now 13 states plus the District of Columbia. It covers about 65 million people. So it is a big deal. Of the people, many of you have heard me say, kind of my mantra as the Environmental Resources and Energy Chair is there's three building blocks. They're the major building block of every organized society in the world is energy. The base building block is energy. With energy, you build an economy, and with an economy, then you can worry about the environment. And they have to be almost in that order, because if you don't build an economy and you're worried about, do you have a job, or let's be more basic, you know, do you have anything to eat today? You really don't give a damn about the environment. So I tell people all the time, if you're really concerned about the environment, then you need to have the most robust economy that we could possibly have, because that's what's going to help the environment. One of the other comments that kind of facetiously is said, well, in our gross national product, energy is only about 5%, but it's the first 5%, because everything else is based on what that 5% does. Pennsylvania, in my opinion, I really kind of want to be a cheerleader, and I wish there were more cheerleaders for Pennsylvania. We have the most diverse energy portfolio, in my opinion, of any state in the country. Yeah, we have everything here. We've got nuclear, we've got gas, we've got coal, we have geothermal, we've got hydro, wind, solar, everything. Very few states have what we have. I'm not sure any of them do. We're the second largest gas producer in the United States. That means Pennsylvania is one of the largest gas producers, natural gas producers in the world. Sometimes I think we don't act like it. We don't wear that mantra, or we don't exert ourselves the way we should. So what's the problem? The problem is this: with our gas production. And the other thing is, I should mention, Pennsylvania produces about 25% of all the electric power that goes into the PJM grid. It's a big business for Pennsylvania. And the reason is because we have the natural resources to support it. The problem, what's happening because of either economic reasons or environmental reasons, a lot of them, we are retiring what are called our baseload dispatchable power plants. And those are the plants that are available 24/7, 365 days a year, irrespective of whether the sun's shining, whether the wind's blowing, the time of day, it doesn't matter. It's there. It's always there, or it can be brought online. We're retiring those plants, and we're not replacing them with anything of comparable capacity. PJM, 10 years ago, had a capacity, and they've had the capacity auctions even more recently, but kind of what their mode of operation was, they would go out for bids 3 years in advance. In other words, you bid today what you will provide power into the grid 3 years down the road. Well, that's kind of all gone by the wayside to some extent as a result of solar and wind. They can't participate in that. I mean, nobody knows what the sun's going to shine 3 years down the road and what days that they could be called upon to furnish power, and the same with wind. So things have gotten really changed. I will also mention one other thing, RGGI. The Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which Governor Wolf tried to put us in 2019. Since 2019, there has not been a dispatchable baseload power plant built in Pennsylvania. So, and what people have told me, generators have flatly said, as long as RGGI, the RGGI tax, somewhere between $600 and $800 million is hanging over our head, we will not invest one nickel in generation capacity in Pennsylvania. That's causing us problems. PJM has recently stated that as early as 26, 27, we could have a problem with demand exceeding supply in Pennsylvania or in the grid. Maybe not specifically in Pennsylvania, but we are all part of this 13-state grid, and it will affect Pennsylvanians. That's part of the problem that we're talking about. I was just recently, I participated in an event in Philadelphia, and one of the questions came up and it said, well, PJM has favored natural gas powered plants too much. They haven't had a natural gas power plant approved in several years. But what the facts are is this, PJM has approved 50,000 megawatts of solar power. It's sitting on the sidelines, not being developed. Historically, solar actual build, the build projects is less than 20%. Let me put some perspective on 50,000 megawatts. 50,000 megawatts would entail the use of about 350,000 acres of land covered with solar panels. 50,000 megawatts would require the use of about 150 million solar panels. And guess where solar panels, the majority of them are made? China. So those are some of the issues that we need to talk about. And when we're talking about the problem, it becomes even worse, excuse me, when we start talking about data centers. That's a whole other subject, and I could spend all afternoon talking about data centers. So those are some of the things that I've worked on. We try to put some of the things together. As I said, some of the, the end result of skill games benefiting the environment, the Chesapeake Bay and that, and then talking about the problems that we have going forward with the electric grid. So with that, I'm open to any questions.
Will skill games get addressed as part of the budget process this year? And part two, thoughts on the governor's 52% proposed tax?
It's anybody's guess. I mean, at least the governor was talking about it. I think, though, that the governor's rate of taxation, I think, unfortunately, it will eliminate it will eliminate skill games from the environment. One of the things that came up, and I just read an article about this recently, excuse me, the punch card things that we used to see in bars, and I guess now I figure out why they aren't in taverns anymore. We got the bright idea, the legislature, we would raise the tax rate on those, and as a result of that, we would generate like close to $100 million. The article I read said, well, that idea really didn't fly because the tax rate was so high, nobody uses them anymore, and the amount of money generated now for tax, or the revenue generated, is not 100 million, it's 1 million. That just goes to show that if you raise the tax rate, I mean, you can put something out of business. I think that's exactly what will happen with skill games. It will do two things. You make them that rate, make them basically illegal. You're going to create criminals out of a whole bunch of really good people and a lot of veterans organizations which depend on them. That's number one. Or number two, everything will go underground, just like what happened when we tried prohibition back in the 20s and 30s. Whether it will go up, this year, I understand everybody is looking for money. So if we need, excuse me, we need money, maybe it'll go. I don't know. I don't have any inside track to it.
How far away do you think Pennsylvania is from rolling blackouts being a regular occurrence? Is there any way to avoid that?
Pardon? I'm sorry.
How far away do you think Pennsylvania is from rolling blackouts being a regular occurrence?
I hope we're really far away from it, but I have to believe what PJM is telling me, that we could face a shortage as early as next year. And that really causes me concern. Here's the real problem. We could start building. Let's say, okay, we're going to start building. It takes, let's build a nuclear power plant. Okay, that's fine. 22 years was the last power plant. Well, let's build a combined cycle gas-fired power plant. Fine, that's 4 to 6 years. But the real issue is this now. Is even if we could build the plant tomorrow, there's a 5-year backlog for the equipment. And I've been told that, no, you're wrong, it's really 7 years, but I'll compromise and stay at 5. So we could build the structure and we don't have the equipment to put in the structure. So my concern, and the answer to your question, is all these numbers no longer fit. We can't say, well, we're going to do this, and we're still studying things, and we're looking at this, and we're going to look at batteries. All these are great ideas. The problem is the time, and we've really wasted a lot of time when we should have been planning things 5 years ago when the first hint came from PJM at least 5 years ago, said by the mid-30s we would have a shortage of at least 80,000 megawatts. Well, that we had to replace somehow. We never replaced it. Now we're reaching the critical mass stage where it's too late to replace it, and we don't have the equipment. So, Pennsylvania's going to get through it, but I think that we may have some very tough times. And I would not be surprised that if the PJM grid does see brownouts or blackouts.
Can Pennsylvania support being a data center hub?
The data centers are a whole new world. What data centers are doing is they cannot use intermittent and interruptible power. So, they can't use wind and they can't use solar. They could use batteries if we had, but we don't have the technology right now for the batteries to service an organization like that. So the most likely thing that they're doing is combined cycle gas-fired power plants. What they're doing, though, is the data centers are building their own power plants, or they're buying their own power. 3 Mile Island is a good example. Okay, Microsoft is putting the funds up. They're buying the power that can be created by 3 Mile Island, but they're buying it, and they're not. It's going into the grid, and it's being transported to wherever Microsoft needs it. But that doesn't help you and me, the normal homeowners. Homer City, out in Indiana County, it's the largest power plant of its kind in the country is being built there. But everything, it's not going into the grid to serve us. It's going into it won't even go into the grid. It's behind the meter. It's going to serve a data center. And there's going to be a whole campus of nothing but data centers in that area. There's thousands of acres involved in it. They have water. It's a huge project. I think that there was an article, I believe it was in the Wall Street Journal. They're investing $10 billion in that. But my concern is that type of generation capacity does not help us. And that's one of my concerns. We've talked about what to do about it. We're working with maybe the EDGE tax credit program to modify that. And in a way, we have a grid reliability that we're talking about doing. Texas started a program where they put $5 billion into a fund to attract people to come to build generation capacity in Texas. That was oversubscribed to the point where they added another $5 billion. They've got $10 billion. In this, and it's working. My conversations with generators said, yes, they're using it and they're building in Texas. We just need to keep working on things like that here in Pennsylvania. I hope we're not too late. West Virginia started a program, I think 3 years ago. They actually did things to enhance their coal industry in West Virginia. And then they did a grid reliability, I forget the name of it exactly, but that supports the gas industry. They now have under construction there, I think it's a combined cycle gas-fired power plant. It's $3.3 billion investment. We're not doing that. There's nothing like that being built in Pennsylvania because we just have not gone forward and said, come to Pennsylvania and build, even though we have all the resources.
Please describe the potential benefits of deploying a liquefied natural gas export terminal on the Delaware River, where the benefits outweigh any negatives.
Yeah, I know a little bit about it. I've been briefed on the LNG facility. I think it's everything I hear, that there's a new site moving it out of the city of Chester, that it will benefit the gas industry in Pennsylvania. I think one of the more interesting comments I heard about that facility is there may be an opportunity to construct some vessels that could actually transport that gas to our friends in Boston so they don't have to buy gas from Russia. I don't know how familiar you are, but there's a thing called the Jones Act that we, federal law, that we can't load natural gas on a ship in Philadelphia or Cove Point and send it to Boston. I don't understand why. But one of the comments about this facility in Philadelphia is they're talking about building a specific kind of a barge type thing that may be outside the Jones Act, and so we could send natural gas to the United States. I know, truth is stranger than fiction. But I think it's a great idea, and it has to be regulated, of course. But the opportunity for the people in that area and the jobs. The last I heard, that's a $7 billion investment, which is that's a great opportunity for that area of Philadelphia or that area of the state.
In the House, there are several bills on the governor's PACER, press, and on community solar and changes to net metering. Do you see anything going through the Senate unless the governor makes changes on RGGI? I don't. Some of the solar bills, as I said, there's 50,000 megawatts of solar standing on the sidelines right now, and it's not being developed. And I understand. I've heard many people say, well, solar is, it's getting really cheap. Well, the only reason it's cheap is because of the government subsidies that are involved in it. And so I'm just not sure that community solar is going to be high on anybody's list of things to do, not this budget session. Do you want to make a prediction on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court's RGGI ruling? When and what will they do?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Asking if you want to make a prediction on how the Supreme Court will rule regarding RGGI.
I think that the change in the federal interpretation and stuff, I think that Pennsylvania should probably go along with it, and especially if there are court cases that now say, we hear about following the court cases, the rule of law. I think that, whether we like them or not, one way or the other, that if our federal courts say that DEI and some of those programs should not be promoted, I think we have an obligation to follow it.
How do you feel about the governor's plan to legalize and tax recreational marijuana?
I have said I will regulate, properly regulated, I would support legalizing recreational marijuana. And the reason is very simple. First of all, I've done some research in it and found out that the use of drugs like marijuana goes back 1,000 years before Christ. I mean, it's not some new thing that people just found in the past 50 years. It's been in use in society for thousands of years. We tried to regulate alcohol with prohibition. That didn't work. We tried to regulate, gambling was out. And so what have we done? How have we gotten control of those? We've said, okay, we may not say that alcohol is the best, but we can regulate it and control it. And I think that, recreational marijuana falls in the same category. And for people that think that it's not in Pennsylvania, it's like burying your head in the sand. I mean, the states surrounding us, it's legal. I must have, my district borders, I must have, I don't know, it's 50 or 75 miles of the New York border. Well, it's not very far. Just go across the border into New York and then come back. So, you know, we're fooling ourselves to say that it's not here and it's not a prevalent part of our society right now. So let's get over it and, you know, let's do the best that we can to regulate it. There's the issue with the federal, how it's considered by the feds, so that's part of what we need to consider, and how are we going to deal with that? It's not an easy question, but I think the bottom line is we should go with it and regulate it and tax it and legalize it.
Final question this afternoon. Do you have anything in common with Governor Shapiro?
Yeah, every time he sees me, he said, let's talk about energy. And I said, okay, I'm willing to talk. So, yes, and I actually did a press conference with Governor Shapiro, I don't know, a month or so ago, about his emphasis and his consideration of rural hospitals and rural health care. So yes, we can talk.
We'd like to thank Senator Yaw for joining us.
Thank you.
We have some mementos for him. These gifts are compliments of the World Affairs Council, Harrisburg, PCN, and the Pennsylvania Press Club. In closing, we want to thank you for being with us. Our next luncheon is Monday, May 19th. Our guest will be House Republican Leader Representative Jesse Topper. For scheduling information, visit our website, papressclub.org. Thanks for joining us today.